we are very, very happy that you're all here. And I'm hoping that the next 9 to 10 weeks is going to be a journey where all of you, along with some of the fabulous guests that we have, Yashaswini, um, Murli, Madan, these are amazing resources. So Dipti and I are delighted to be here, and we'll begin this entire journey. What we're going to do today is that we'll go through a little bit of a reflective practice to set the context for all of us. And then we will explore some of these Indic thoughts that are there in terms of how can we actually look at our enterprise and what can we do for our enterprise? How can we, use these frameworks that are there that we're blessed to have? And how can we use these frameworks to figure out how can we propel our enterprise to the next level? So with that, let me begin this particular session. If you look at the stages of any enterprise, every enterprise goes through certain interesting stages. The first stage is the ideation stage, and for the last 44 years, that Dipti and I have been working with organizations, with companies, guiding them, mentoring them, taking them, helping them move to the next level. We believe that there are roughly 6 or 7 stages of an enterprise. The first is the ideation phase, where there is this bee in your bonnet, there is this buzz that you have saying that, kuch to karna hai. I need to do something about this idea. I've got this idea, and there's something or the other about this idea that is not allowing me to sleep at night. And I'm so passionate about it. I want to do something about this particular idea that I have. May work, may not work, I don't know. But right now, I have this idea, and I think this is the next big thing. And that's how an enterprise is born. After that, we get into a startup phase where we're putting things together, we're putting a team together, we're getting our founders together, our co-founders together, some money together, etc., etc. And that's the entire startup phase. And I keep joking with startup founders all the time, saying, and then the problems start. Okay, till then life is beautiful, life is rosy, everything is great. And then you get into what I call the survival and the sustainability phase, where is the enterprise going to survive? Are you sustaining? And this can take anywhere between 2 years to 3 years. Will this really work? Will this sustain? Will this generate money? You're bootstrapping. You're digging into cash reserves that you've got at home that you put aside, and you're trying to figure out how to get through that particular phase. Once you cross that particular hump in the road, about 2.5, 3 years roughly, you get into the scalability phase. When you say, okay, great, now I need to scale the enterprise, I need to see how I can actually take it into a bigger platform. Post that, you get into something called the shareability phase. How are you going to share? So you get in external investors. Maybe there is an IPO. Maybe there is some amount of sweat equity that you'd like to give to your employees. How do you share what the enterprise has actually gone through? And finally, you figure out saying, okay, I think the time has come for me. The enterprise has grown bigger than me, and therefore I need to exit, whether it is in terms of a formal exit or whether it is in the form of an informal exit where you're handing over the organization to other people to run. You're bringing in professionals. So this is the various stages. Now, the interesting thing is, when I was reading up our own Indic philosophy, I came across some very, very interesting similarities that we talk about. Deep embedded in the Indic philosophy is something called Asti. Asti is where you actually take shape in the womb. And then you get into Jayate, which is the birth phase. And then you get into the Vardate phase, which is when you're actually growing. You're moving in from childhood into adulthood virtually. And then you get into Viparinamate, which means that is the time when you're procreating, when you're growing, when your entire body is actually changing. And then you get into Apakshite, which means that is the time when you're trying to diminish, you're trying to get your role, your own ideas are coming down. And finally, the Nashyati phase, in which you actually exit from the world. So there's a lot of beautiful similarities on the life of an enterprise along with this. So just to get us going, here's what I'd like you to do. And every session this time, Dipti and I have come up with a reflective practice that we're going to ask you to do in this session. So here is a request for all of you. If you have a piece of paper and a pen handy, that would be great. If you don't, doesn't matter. If you're driving or something like that, I wouldn't want you to distract yourself at this time. But yes, here is something that I'd like you to do. There is a certain amount of note that I'd like to, we'll give you time to make. And that is something which is very, very important. Because at the end of every reflective practice, there is a note that will set the context for what Dipti will be sharing as a shloka, what Yashaswini, what Murli, what Madan will perhaps share at a later time, right? So here's what I'd like you to do. I want you all to sit comfortably, close your eyes, so that there are no external distractions that are going to be happening. Okay, so I want you to kind of close your eyes and just flow with the thought with me. Take a deep breath in. Okay, and as you take a deep breath in, just relax. And as you breathe out, just let all the external, let all the tensions of the day, all the difficult conversations that you had, all the disappointments that you've had, all the happiness that you've had, all the great achievements that you had today, let it all just flow out. So take a deep breath in, get the energy into your system. And as you breathe out, just make sure that all the accumulated excitement of the day, all the perhaps I hope there are no tensions of the day, but make sure that all of that is going out. Take a deep breath in again. As you breathe in, just do a little bit of a reflection. Think of your day to day and breathe out all that which is clouding your thoughts. Let it all go out. At this point of time, with your eyes closed, I want you to think for yourself what stage best describes where your enterprise is right now. Is it at an ideation phase? It is at a startup phase? Is it at a survival phase? Is it at a sustainability phase? Is it at that scalability phase where you can scale your enterprise? Is it at the time when you want to let go, when you want to share things? Is it at a phase when you are seriously thinking of exiting the business? What phase is your business right now, your enterprise right now? And I want you to think, what are some signs of this particular stage? The people that work with you, your clients, your customers, your employees, your partners, the pace, the chaos, the clarity, the fun, the excitement. What are some interesting signs of this phase? I want you to think of that. And when you've done that, I want you to think of some questions that I'm going to ask you. At this stage of the journey of the enterprise, do you trust yourself to make the right decisions? What is your vision or clarity like? Is that purpose for which you started this enterprise still guiding your decisions? Is there a challenge in the enterprise that needs your urgent leadership right now? How is your discipline at this point of time? Is it consistency? Is it focus? How is it affecting the enterprise? What are the kind of mindsets in the enterprise right now? So I want you to think of that, of your enterprise, and figure these issues out as to where are you right now. Once you've done that, okay, I want you to think of a couple of things. Number one, are you continuing to fulfill your role as the leader of the enterprise with integrity, with purpose? Is this happening? Is what you're doing right now in the enterprise, is it adding value in a sustainable way? I want you to think of this. Let's spend the next 1 minute with these questions. I want you to think this through. Whatever be the stage of your enterprise, I want you to think of some of these questions that I've asked. And I want you to think also for one change that you can make today for greater inner clarity, that Antar Prerana that will enhance your external effectiveness. What is that inner clarity, that Antar Prerana that you want to enhance your external effectiveness? I want you to think of that. And if you can slowly open your eyes and write that down, saying, this is what I need to make as a change. So that that inner clarity, that Antar Prerana, to enhance my external effectiveness can happen. Wonderful if you've done that, and if you can make a note of it, when we get back into our Q&A and discussion mode, we'll discuss this a lot more. So what's the importance of this reflective practice? And through these 9 sessions, and I'm hoping that all of you will be there for all the 9 sessions with us. Every session will take you through a reflective practice like this, where you're going to be thinking about your own enterprise and saying, what is it that I can do? What change should I actually bring about? And when we interact with our panelists today, a little later, when we interact with Dipti, with Yashaswini, and then Murli and Madan, we'll get some more thoughts on their own journeys and what we've done. What is the importance of this entire thought process? You see, the Indic framework teaches us something very, very important. And what it teaches us is that there is a entire thought virtuous, what Swami Chinmayananda calls the virtuous thought cycle. And you get on to this virtuous thought cycle What does it mean? We know now that the thoughts that you have will lead to action. So we have two options now. One, we can have guided thoughts, okay, in terms of something which is enabling, something which is positive. And those guided thoughts will lead us to action, which is karma. But doing karma by itself is not enough. Just doing action by itself is not going to help us in life. What we need to do is that we need to go beyond that. We need to get to a stage of what I call significant action, which is Mahatvapurna karma. The point is that in a day, it is not possible for you to do only significant action or Mahatvapurna karma. In a day, you will go through all the other aspects, which is reaction, inefficient action, inaction. So you will do all of this. But can you guide your thoughts in a way that you say that, look, what is the one change that I can do to get better inner clarity, to get that Antar Prerana, so that my external situations in life can get better handled? So when you get to that Mahatvapurna karma, and if you do this every day, then guess what happens? You start repeating that significant action of that thinking in a way of doing that till it becomes a habit. Once it becomes a habit, and that habit keeps repeating again and again and again, you get into something which I call habit forming. It is this abhyasa that is required at that point of time. And this abhyasa will create the character of the enterprise, will create the culture of the enterprise. Okay? You've heard of that famous statement that was made that culture eats strategy for breakfast. This is how you create that culture of the entire enterprise. You keep working on it day in and day out, day in and day out, till this becomes a habit. What is culture? Culture is nothing but a set of abhyasas, it's a set of practices that you do on a day-to-day basis. Once you get that character, the culture of the enterprise in place, you will get the desired results that you want. Obviously, when you get those desired results, all of us will feel happy, we'll feel joyous. That is joy at work. And that is when coming to work on a Monday morning becomes an act of joy. Not one of the most, painful practices. I recently heard that the maximum amount of heart attacks actually happen on a Monday morning at about 4 o'clock because people are really, really worried about what is going to be happening this week. And that joy at work will lead us back into enabling thoughts, and the virtuous cycle starts again. So it's important for us, and this time through this entire Antar Prerana program, we're going to be focusing on how can we guide our thoughts on a daily basis so that the action that we take, the Mahatvapurna karma that we need to perform, will lead us to those actions that are so very, very important to us in life. Having said this, I want to bring in Dipti right now. There is a particular shlok that we've chosen for you today, which best, I think, describes the life of an enterprise and an entrepreneur and what needs to be done in that entire enterprise. And we're going to share this shloka with you today. And we will interpret for you this shloka. And then from there on, we'll get into some amount of discussions and reflections.
Prakritim purusham chaiva vidyanadi ubhavapi vikaranscha gunanschaiva vidhi prakriti sambhavan. Know that Prakriti, the material nature, and the Purusha, the individual souls, are both beginningless. Also know that all transformation of the body and the three modes of nature are produced by the material energy. If we talk about Bhagavad Gita, one thing which boils down to the entire lessons that we come is that At the end of the day, it is about me, right? And so one comes to know that it is Aham Brahma Asmi, I am the creator. And when we look at the startups, then all the startups, the creation is the enterprise. It is their baby, right? And all of us, we want that our baby grows, it thrives, which means that the foundation needs to be strong. And the strength of the foundation of any startup, to me, depends upon two things. One, the purpose, and the second is the values of it. When I say purpose, it would mean the intention. It is why, the why part of the why have you started this? Why are we building this? What is the reason behind this? So that is the purpose that we are looking at from a enterprise perspective. Now, these two things, the values and the purpose, these are the ones which do not change. They remain the same irrespective of whatever happens to the through the organizational growth. So, what are the things that changes is the structure, maybe the people who come and go. Then you have markets that change, the consumers, and so on and so forth. The methodology, the working procedures, these can change, but the values of the organization and the purpose why the of the organization remains the same. So when we're looking at that, purpose, I would say, should be the main focus for any startup. Okay, and why that is so? Because it is the purpose of the organization that gives the driving force to that organization. It is it is the one which takes the organization to the next level. It is the one which brings the team alignment. It is the one which makes people in the organization feel a sense of contribution. They take pride in that organization. So if you look at the sloka in today's context that we are looking, Prakriti Purusham, I would say from a spiritual context that purpose is the soul of any organization, of any enterprise, which is the Purusha. In this context of shloka, Purusha is that part of organization. Now, if you look at so many startups, in fact, I was today, when we were looking at startups being the topic and the main address of startup, I was thinking about how many startups am I actually going? I realized that on a day-to-day basis, at least, we are using the new ideas that have come up in the last 10, 15 years. Look at, for instance, in my case, I would see that I'm using almost Blinkit on every alternate day. I'm using Ola. I'm using Urban Clap. These are the startups that have come up and have grown. They have become big. And the main thing is that they are solving the problem of the individuals, the society. So if your purpose is to solve something, then that becomes an impactful purpose. So one needs to have a strong purpose, an impactful purpose to establish, to flourish. If there is no clarity in the purpose, then that startup doesn't flourish so well. Over to you, Ram.
Thank you, Dipti. So primarily, if you look at it, I mean, here embedded in this entire shloka is about the entire life of an enterprise. When Krishna says Prakritim Purusham Chaiva, what are we talking about? You see, this entire material nature. Now, the interesting thing is that he says both of them are anadi, which means they're beginless, which means they're there forever. However, what we need to understand is that you remember a little earlier, we went through the 6 stages of an enterprise. The ideation, startup, survival, sustainability, scalability, shareability, the exit stage. That means these changes are but normal. And at each stage of the enterprise, things will be dynamic and will keep changing. At the same time, there is something very interesting embedded in this particular shloka, which talks about the gunas. Now, what are these gunas all about? You all have heard of sattva, rajas, and tamas, and we will examine this a little later. But what happens is that the interplay of the gunas, and in a day, some of us will start in the morning with sattva, go into rajas, and at the end of the day, go to tamas. or the other way around, or you can have it's not a 33% in a normal day. You can have 60s 20 20, you can have 20 60 20, you can have any kind of combinations of this. Now, depending upon the interplay during the day, depending upon the stage of the enterprise, these gunas, the interplay of the gunas, will give rise to certain interesting emotions. What are those emotions? We're taught that there are about 7 different emotions that can happen to each one of us, depending upon the interplay. What are these? And as I said, these gunas are they're part of us. It's not external to us. These are some things which are intrinsic to us. What are these emotions? What are these feelings that can come? Ichha, dvesha, sukham, dukham, sangataha, chetana, dhriti. What does it mean? It means that these can give you feelings of desire, that, I need to achieve this. I need to do something, okay, with this. Can give you hatred. Why is this not happening to me? Okay, you can hate the people that you're interacting with at this point of time. Happiness, sukham, dukham, unhappiness. Things don't go your way, unhappiness. Things go your way, happiness. Attachment. I want to protect what I have. It's something which is very important. I'm very careful about my IPR, etc., etc. It can give you awareness, chetana, awareness of what? The larger purpose of the enterprise, and the dhriti, the determination. But the most important thing is what I think Murli referred to a little earlier and Dipti was talking about, is the Purusha. It is the unchanging aspect of you and your enterprise. It is the purpose that drives the enterprise. And it is this purpose that is so critical for any enterprise. And this is a purpose, let me tell you that purpose cannot be external dependent. If there is anything that changes in life, if there is anything that is external to you, then that cannot drive your purpose. The purpose that you have, the purpose of the enterprise, is so crucial and critical. And it is something which is internal. It is something that has to come from within. So what I'd really like to do is that, I'd like to use this opportunity to request Murli to come in at this point of time, because I know, we're really grateful to you, Murli, for joining us all the way from California. And, the fact that you're here with us is a great thing for all of us. And I would like you to come in, Murli, if you can.
Yeah, Ram, first of all, I am grateful. So this is such an interesting topic, and it is something very, very dear to my heart, right? And whatever we discuss, I mean, what you so aptly put, if we do not have the purpose, right? And if the purpose is not born within, right, that has to be the North Star which drives not just our entrepreneurial journey, but our life journey, right? If that is not clear and that clarity is not there, it becomes an absolutely difficult for anyone to forget about scaling, even traveling the journey, right? Even just as a mere traveler in this journey of life, it becomes very difficult because if we don't have the compass, right? And I call the purpose as the compass of our life, right? And if we don't have that, Ram, if you allow me, I would want to say a small Telugu poem, right? And then I want to, it is not a Vedantic in sense, but I want to connect it to the what we are discussing, right?
Please, Murli, love it.
భూతాన్ని యజ్ఞోపవితాన్ని వైప్లవ గీతాన్ని నేడు స్మరిస్తే పద్యం అరుస్తే వాద్యం అసల్ప వేదిక లోకాలు గిరులు సాగరులు జ్వరులు నా సోదరులు. I am the rebellion. I am the sacred thread, Yagnopavitani, the anthem of upheaval, Vaiplava Gitani. When I remember, it is the poetry, it is Mariste Padyam. When I shout, it is music, Aruste Vadyam. The stage is immense, Asalpa Vedika, right? these worlds, these mountains, these seas, fevers, these are my brothers. This is what an entrepreneurial journey is about, right? I mean, as you were discussing earlier, right? The six stages, Ram, which we keep discussing, right? I mean, the existence, either the asti or vardate, or I love the vipranamate, right? The transformation, right? And of course the vinashate, right? The ultimate end. And the vinashate is not to be looked at in a negative connotation, but that is the ultimate truth. So if we were to look at today, what is one thing certain in our life is the death, right? That is the purity. That is the purest form of anyone's existence, is that we every day we travel to that. And how do we embrace it, right? For an entrepreneur, what is that matters, right? I mean, from a transformation, right? It is the completes the cycle that completes. So it is not the vinashate as a destruction, but the exit, the end, the employment which we have created, right? The exit, what the founder is hoping for, right? Whether it is exist in the materialistic sense by someone acquiring it, or a transformation of a leadership to another generation, whether it is his son, daughter, whoever. So it is an end of a one entrepreneurial journey to beginning of a newer journey, right? That is for me is the vinashate, right? So but this only happens, right, when you have the transformation. And this transformation can only happen when there is an existence, and that existence of that purpose, which Deepthi had so beautifully recited, right? I mean, as a Purush, and Purush is a non-gender form, right? A human being, for that individual, if we do not have that purpose, right, it becomes extremely difficult, right? Whether it is Steve Jobs, right, who has had the purpose of creating the most simplest form of device, from iPods to the iPhones, the way the transformation happened, right? And that is what one has to look at it, right? From a Swiggy, how the transformation happened from a delivery app to today's, as Deepthi was talking about, whether it's the Instamart or a Blinkit, right? A Zomato, which is a review platform, to a delivery platform, to your 30 seconds or 3 minutes delivery platform. And I think they are doing so much of transformation, right? And that is what an entrepreneur ought to look forward. But if you recall, on the entire backbone of this is the purpose. The purpose in these entrepreneur journeys: how do I make someone's life absolutely simple? How can I make someone the ease of doing things, right? If we have that north star in our lives, right? And I think that is what one should drive. And Ram, I would be doing a great injustice if I don't talk about the Thai's purpose, right?
Yes,
I mean,
please.
the reason Thai has been such a prevalent organization for last 33 years, and it will have another 50, 100 years to go beyond our lifetimes, is the purpose. The north star of Thai is about fostering entrepreneurship, right? That is very clear, and no matter what we do at various chapters in various cities across the globe, that purpose drives us, right? The reason why, whether it is Madan, myself, you, or Deepthi, or whoever, we are dedicating so much of our time to do this, right? Getting up early in the morning or way late into it, is because we are driven by that purpose of fostering entrepreneurship. And so for any entrepreneur, it's very important to have that purpose. So hence, I'm going back to Deepthi Sloka, that let us all be that Purush who are driven by that purpose. So thank you, Ram, and thank you, Deepthi. Really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Thank you so much, Murli. Just a quick question before we let you go, Murli. I know you're off for a meeting right now. And I mean, I would like all of the people on this call to know that, Murli has logged in all the way from California, San Francisco. right now, Santa Clara or Fremont. And it's early morning for him, and that gives you an idea of the kind of commitment that he has. Only just a quick one from your own journey as an entrepreneur. How has this purpose helped you in terms of scaling Murli?
Is a great question, Ram. And given that I am with my fellow entrepreneurs, I need to be very true to the cause, right? I'm absolutely vulnerable, if I could use that word. The days when I did not have purpose, right? And there were days because you would look at someone else's journey and you say that, hey, if that individual is doing this particular line of business, why can't I? And you become a copycat, right? And you try to do that particular, you try to travel that journey, right? And that has absolutely bombed me, and that has created multiple scars on my body. So is very important. So these days, I have an absolute purpose, and that purpose, I mean, we what we do is a software product engineering firm out of Hyderabad, Ram. So we don't basically integrate software solutions. There is a market for it, but my purpose is that I want to create software product engineering talent in India, right? I mean, in the 5 lakh plus people which graduate in India and create employment every year in India, there's hardly about 50,000 to 70,000 software product engineers which compete with either Silicon Valley talent or Israeli talent or Estonian talent, right? How can India become that is my purpose. And now that I have that clarity, my journey has been um, um, absolutely fulfilling, and there is a north star with which every day I wake up in the morning, and that gives me energy, that gives me the goosebumps, and that's what I would say everyone has to be driven with. See, until Sita was in Lanka, right? Rama's purpose was to find that Sita. Every day morning when he woke up, all he wanted to is find that Sita, right? And that's for me is right now I'm in that journey of finding the Sita, right? So that's how I would say one story where I had an entrepreneurial journey without a purpose, but just a looking at someone else's purpose and believing that right? Maya and Moha taking over, and that is when the greed sets in, right? Now you remove that and say, no, what is my purpose, right? Then you are maybe your little bit of Maya is there, but Moha is not there, right? Then you we go travel towards the dispassionate way of becoming the truest entrepreneur, and hopefully one day I'll make you guys proud. So thanks, Ram.
What a fascinating share, Murli. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you very much, Murli, for being with us today. And I understand that you will now be on a silent mode, or you maybe log off. But thank you so much for taking your time off to be here to kick off this, this session of Antar Prerana. And I'm really super excited that we're here.
No, thank you, Ram, and thank you, Deepti. Yashashwini, I heard so much about you. I'm sorry I'm not able to hear, but hopefully we'll have an opportunity to listen to you one
Yes.
of these days.
All
Thank
the
you, Ram.
best. All the best.
Thank you.
Thanks, Murli.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Ram. Thanks,
Thank
You
Deepti.
have
you.
a
Thanks,
great
Shreya.
day.
Bye.
Thanks. You have a great day. Well, so coming back to this whole idea of purpose, that we were talking about a little earlier, and the Indic framework gives us a very, very staunch, let us say, and into this whole purpose issue. And that's what we did our reflective practice, saying, what is the one change that you want to do so that you get better inner clarity to handle the external world. So if purpose is so deeply personal, like Murli was sharing, and just give me a little while and I'll bring Yashaswini into the conversation. What should it do? I personally believe, for instance, when we started Born to Win, we gave ourselves a purpose. We said we must help people help themselves in a joyous way. And that was the purpose statement that we wrote for ourselves, that, it's not about us, it's about people. We must help them help themselves in a very joyous way. And that is the purpose that we said that we will create for us. So what should purpose do for you? What is this whole aspect of this Purusha, who has to drive your purpose, do for you? I believe it should do the following things. Number one, it should be something that should enhance your self-belief on a day-to-day basis. Every day, the self-belief that you have in yourself, in what you're doing, in your product, in your service, must get enhanced. A strong purpose will help you do that. The second thing, a strong sense of purpose should get you vision and clarity. All of you are aware that, we live in this VUCA world, which is, volatile, violent, whatever you want to call it, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, etc., etc. A good purpose statement will help you get the vision and clarity to handle all these ups and downs that are happening with us in life. And we are living in a more and more interconnected world. All of you are aware of what is happening right now in the world with all the tariffs and the H-1B and etc., etc., etc. A good purpose should help you move up what I call the accountability ladder, from responsibility to ownership to accountability, which means that you and your team should take accountability for everything that you do in life. A good purpose must help you get the discipline that is important in life. This abhyasa that we need to practice on a disciplined basis, on a day-to-day basis, that is something which is so very important. And finally, this purpose must help us create a win-win mindset. That this enterprise is not for me and not for me to become a billionaire, but for me to help create millionaires across the world. A good purpose, I believe, must help us do these 5 things. What we're going to be exploring we're going to take a break because of Dasara, but after that, is we're going to be looking at the 4 Purusharthas: Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. How are we going to lead a life of helping our enterprise run on the basis of Dharma? The pursuit of wealth is not wrong. It is absolutely, absolutely essential. We need to pursue wealth. We need to create wealth. That's our fundamental responsibility. How can we make this kama, this desire, into karma that works? And how can we lead a life of liberation? No anxiety, no fear, nothing like that, but just joyous work. And that is what this particular sessions of Antar Prerana will do for all of us. So the pursuit of purpose must create wealth in a joyous way without fear and anxiety. And that is what we're going to be doing in Antar Prerana 2025. With that, I'd love to request Yashaswini to come in and tell us, Yashaswini, your thoughts and your journey and how this beautiful audience that we have this evening with us, what can you share with us and what can you share with them? Yashaswini?
Sure. Thank you, Ram, and good evening and good morning, everybody. Look, if I've had like 25 years of professional experience, as you would like to call it that, and largely into 3 buckets, just for context and perspective. One was as a head of HR of a very large conglomerate of 8 different businesses, and we employed over 3,000 employees. And huge amount of diversity in terms of socioeconomic needs, and that taught me a lot. The second was to actually co-create the startup ecosystem of Bangalore. So largely invested and managed about 46 startups, and that was an interesting experience itself, because contrary to the 6 stages that we've been discussing about, startups have a 95% failure rate. And I'll come to the importance of purpose. So, so for us to have incubated 46 startups and nurtured them, we would have seen thousands of plans come, conflicts arise, greed pick up, So that's been a fascinating experience, and that's my second context. And the third context is as a multi-venture founder myself. And my latest venture, Culturalytics, we have started the world's first AI platform that studies human behavior in a work environment and actually predicts growth. We're the world's first women-led from India, so we're very proud about that, and we want to be the world's best in both our different journeys, and that gives rise to another set of emotions. Excuse me, I'll try to kind of bring in these collective perspectives of my professional experience. Personally, from a family standpoint, we've served India a lot. My family has seen a lot of ups and downs since independence, been very close to power, out of power, and that shows you a side to public and society where you kind of forced to grow up very early, and handle a lot of people very early on. So I think coming back to the sense of purpose, I think more than anything else, for me, and I keep joking about it, saying if anybody wants a fast track spiritual journey, become an entrepreneur because it teaches you everything. You get so attached to it, and your employees leave, and you're heartbroken. You create wealth, and your board gets very greedy. So you get frustrated. You're excited, but then you have a private equity firm wanting to come and invest, and you get disheartened. So for me to have seen from ideation to exit multiple times over in the last 25 years, entrepreneurship is all about spirituality, and that's what has kept me grounded and sane, to be very honest. So I'm very, very blessed to be born in the family that I'm born, in the country that I'm born, because unlike other countries, and this is not to pass judgment, we have societal structures and frameworks that I can depend on. And the spiritual fabric is, I think, keeps us sane, is what I would like to call that. Also, a slight change is that women think differently. So to your point of purpose, I'm sure everybody understands, are different for different people, and it's very personal, and I think the journey is almost always internal. We may get distracted by external fame, and we feel like Bill Gates one day and we feel like nothing the other day. We sign a multi-million-dollar deal, and we're like, we've arrived, and then the collections don't come, and your finance guy is saying we have to pay salaries. So it's a bit of everything. But I think for women to kind of take up entrepreneurship, for women to create something, I think it far outweighs, there is an idea and I want to do something about it. I think for women, it becomes a huge part of their identity beyond their marriage, beyond their family. And I think they end up giving up a lot more. So I think I'd love to hear everybody's perspectives on that. What I've realized is that you must have the ability to help yourself, to summarize it, Ram, and that comes through journeys. I mean, you can't have shortcuts. I think that everybody understands. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you would have already become one. A lot of them ask me saying, I want to leave my job, I want to be an entrepreneur. I've been thinking about it for the last 5 years, and I'm like, please continue to be in your job, because I think that's best for you. Because, if you have to do it, you have to do it. There's no point talking about it. And action is where the manthan happens. Conflicts arise. I think my biggest obstacle or my biggest challenge was being comfortable with myself. Because you're thrown on the public stage at such a young age that you tend to start managing everybody, and you don't look at yourself too much. You always want to read the room. You want to, it's a performance act at the end of the day. So for you to take some quiet time for yourself to actually reflect and think, what is it that I want to do in my life beyond the accolades, beyond the recognition? What is it what is going to keep me satisfied and happy? Is it financial stability? Then I want to be able to chase that, and I want to be able to sit and negotiate the terms I want to. If it is about recognition and popularity, then it's another swing altogether. And I don't think we have a black and white answer for this, right? As in when we get experience, we learn from others. Some of our goals also keeps changing. So I feel that we use a lot of these words passing by. And I think because we're Indians, spirituality is deep rooted, so we're able to reflect and interlink a lot of concepts quite easily because of the plurality of our religion. But I think it'll always be a constant evolution. And as long as you understand that you have to help yourself, nobody else is going to come and help you. And that journey is so internal to you. And once you're comfortable with that, and once you accept that, at least for me, that has what has given me purpose and clarity to move along. And some of the things I learned the hard way was Salim Khan, Salman Khan's father, very controversial figure. But I love Shairi. I was born in Coimbatore, grew up in Delhi, working in Bangalore, so multicultural that way. But he said something on the Kapil Sharma show, which I was glancing by. He said, "आंसू आए तो खुद पहुंचेगा, लोग आएंगे तो सौदा करेंगे." So so some of these I think you only learn as you age. Because so my thing to the audience would be, first be your own best friend. Look at yourself in the mirror. I took a lot of time to just look at the mirror and recognize myself. I think we have to start there. And once you have that confidence, an entrepreneur code in Hindi we say jigar. It's not confidence, it's jigar. I think that tenacity, that resilience, 95% of startups fail. You have a good quarter, the peaks and valleys of this. So on your 6 stages, from startup to IPO, and that is every entrepreneur's dream. But how many of us actually are blessed to walk that and share that story? How many of us give up? And it's not about us, it's also the surroundings. Sometimes we would like to take the risks, but the people around us, and that's why satsang is so important, is to surround yourself with people who would encourage you and motivate you. This is a topic very passionate and close to my heart. I think I should very quietly and dignifiedly give it back to you. But thank you so much for having me. I didn't know about this. Madan spoke to me about this in great detail, and the Thai team was so wonderful. But thank you for having me over, Ram.
Fantastic. Yashaswini, thank you so much for that lovely share. Very, very nice. I think very insightful share. Madan, are you here?
Yeah.
Madan, go ahead.
Can you hear me now? I'm trying
Yeah,
to-
yeah, we
yes,
can.
very much.
Sure. No, thank you. I've been listening to both Murli and Yashaswini, and it's fascinating reflections. I'll just bring in one quick perspective for a few minutes and hand it back, Ram. So two thoughts that has always shaped me. One is, of course, I loved what you said about what the purpose must do, and that's very powerful. I think somebody told me ages ago, which I found it to be very profound, that life is too serious to be taken seriously.
Mhm.
I think we end up taking ourselves too seriously, and that's where the ego steps in. where we think we control our destiny, not only our destinies, but we control the universe. And to me, that induces two things. One is a much larger stress, but also the fact that you feel so self-important that you forget the world around you. So every day I remind myself, saying that we're just a mere speck in the universe, and we are here to do what we have to do, and just be happy and spread the joy around. And if you can sleep with a clear conscience at the end of the day that I lived this day well, because who knows whether we're going to get up the next day or not, right? And therefore, the purpose of, when there's an overarching purpose, the purpose of the moment is to live the moment to its fullest, to make sure that you're enjoying the moment and people around you really resonate and go on the journey with you. I think whatever one does in that moment is what matters. As the famous Kung Fu Panda movie says, the past is gone, whatever the future is a mystery, and the present is now, and that's why it's called a present or something like that. So how do you live in the present with the purpose being with you, and the fact that you can live with the fact that the next moment you may not be there? To me, that is the dance of life that that is interesting, to be on that edge all the time. It's like the drop of water just from a leaf that is just falling down, right? So how do you be in that space where you're just there? When Srishti was talking about her reflections and Buddhi was talking about that finding the Sita, I was just thinking about it, saying that the Sita and the purpose is all in the moment, and staying in that space is critical. I just wanted to share this, just this quick perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Madan. Thank you so much. So we've often been asked by a number of entrepreneurs, number of people who are running businesses, saying that, all this is fine. You're saying purpose. Okay. How do I do it? How do we actually find what is our purpose? Is there anything that, you can suggest to us? And I'd like to share one final practice with you, and then we can open this up to Q&A and any questions, and we'll talk about that. So what are the 4 ways to understand? Okay, what is the purpose that you have? Okay, the first way that you can look at is possibly to get into some kind of a meditation practice, like this guided practice. Meditation is not about sitting quiet and saying there'll be no thought, there'll be no thought, there'll be no thought. Actually, the fact that you're saying there is no thought is a thought in itself. So that is not meditation. So don't get confused about that. Is to sit and actually withdraw your senses from all the external objects, and then just get into an inner journey into saying, what is it that is really, really something, as I said, that will enhance my self-belief, will give me a lot of vision, a lot of clarity, will give me discipline, etc. So that is one way that you can do that. But meditation may be difficult for some of us, because too many thoughts crowding into our mind, too many issues, too many inputs, too many things happening at the same time. So if that is not possible, then there is something called Sankhya Yoga, which is the power of vichara, which means is to start thinking of those thoughts, saying that this is what really excites me, and this is what I need to be doing, and this is what I can do. Okay, that's the second part. Even if that is difficult for you, then to get into what I call Karma Yoga, which is focus on the now, like Madan very interestingly said about Kung Fu Panda, that the reason why we call it is a present, because it's a present, because it's right now. So focus on the now, focus on what action needs to be done by you at this point of time. Don't worry about the past, don't worry about the future. as as we keep saying, Chinta Shoka Prashamanam. Okay, forget all that. Don't worry about Chinta or Shoka, Chinta of the future or Shoka of the past, but just focus on the now. And the fourth, even if this is not possible, if you can't live in the now, then the best advice that I have used for myself is to get into what Yashaswini also referred to as satsang. Okay, to be in the company of people. And I think, like Murli was saying, Thai is a great platform to be part of, to be in this satsang, in the company of people who have similar ideas, who are on a similar journey. And that is something which is easy. So the first step, I guess, is to start with satsang, is to figure out how can you get to be with people who are like you, who are on this journey, who are exploring, and who, perhaps need to understand what is their purpose. So there's nothing wrong with that. I remember discovering this whole issue of helping people help themselves in a joyous way when I was on a train between Bombay and Surat. And when I was sitting there, and I was actually in a train, and we were talking to a whole host of people. And in that conversation with a whole host of people came this entire thought, and that was satsang. And after that satsang, living in the now, the karma yoga that you need to do, and figuring out that, look, I'm going to be living in the now. I'm going to just keep focusing on this one aspect in my life. And I'm not going to worry about the past. I'm not going to worry about the future. I'm just going to be living in the now. And that is how that led to a whole host of vichara, almost like a prayer, that this is what I want to be doing. And today, whenever I sit and meditate and I withdraw everything in, I keep asking myself this simple question: am I helping people help themselves in a joyous way? These are simple ways to find your purpose in life. Okay. And it will keep, developing over a period of time. This whole business of satsang is so very important. We have a small study group that meets every day in the morning from 6 to about 7 o'clock in the morning. And we, all of us are going through this entire practice on a daily basis. And slowly but surely, each of us is discovering what our purpose is. That is satsang, right? So with that, I'd like to open this up to any questions that you may have. Shreya, if you can enable the chat box, or if you can enable conversations, I'd be very grateful to you. But before you open up while you're opening up the chat box, Dipti, anything that you'd like to come in on, anything that you'd like to comment from your own experience?
Yeah, see, purpose, as far as I'm concerned, I feel purpose can come to you at any point of time. If you feel that the purpose is solving a need, because at the end of the day, it is something which is like a solution to a certain need, right? So it could be that. It could come from a certain incident, like you mentioned yours. If you look at even Mahatma Gandhi's, the purpose he got because of his experience in the train where he was asked to get out of it. So some of these are kind of a life-changing experiences which can give you a purpose to follow, or it could be like very rightly you said, during the satsang, if we are not very clear, bashing of ideas and throwing, you can throw some ideas and again with somebody and have a good conversation with the group discussions. Some of the ideas really emerge from those collective minds. So that is my take on that purpose.
Wonderful. Super. So Shreya, are we opening the chat box? Are you allowing people to unmute and ask questions?
Yes, the chat box is also open, and people can also unmute and talk.
Super. So go ahead, my friends. Any questions to Madan, Dipti, myself, Yashaswini? We're all here.
I think there is a question, and on the chat box.
Oh, is that it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. Just curious if there has been a reliable survey which points to what entrepreneurs say their purpose is for study. Yashaswini, would you like to handle?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So short answer is yes. There are multiple surveys that kind of keeps tracking this. How does it look in different countries? Oh, I don't know about different, but I focus on what's similar across countries, and that seems to be the ability to solve a problem. And most often than not, entrepreneurs think of themselves as a solution to everything wrong that's happening in the society. And because of entrepreneurs, the society and the world is going to be a big, better place because of their product, because of the way they serve. So it's typically to add incremental value. There are very, very few entrepreneurs who actually do inventions and, change the course of action, right? So those are people like Ford, the famous thing that don't go to customers' feedback on horse carts because I want to build a car. Those are far and few, but most of them want to create incremental value. And it's greed. Sorry to be saying that in this session, but it's greed. Greed drives the world. People don't have enough. And I love what the Native Americans or the Red Indians say. And I would encourage everybody to pick up the book and read that, where they say that even when the last tree is cut, the man will still try to make money of it, even though we're out of oxygen and water.
Yeah, sure.
So
Well, Umesh,
I
to
hope that
answer
was.
you, to answer you, Umesh, are there surveys? Yes, Google Auntie has got a number of these surveys. Are they reliable? I don't
Why
know.
are you calling auntie?
I don't know. I love aunties. I love auntie. I call her my auntie all the time. I call
Google
Google
auntie.
Maps my auntie. So, my aunts have always guided me in my life. So that's why. So Google has any number of surveys that you guys can, check out on Umesh. But let me tell you, are they reliable? I don't know. Okay. Quite honestly, having mentored more than 20,000 entrepreneurs till now, it takes some time to find what your purpose is. Can you do a cut, copy, paste, Umesh? Well, you can. Nothing wrong in that. But I would very strongly urge that you look at it, as a journey for yourself, because you will really, really find some interesting thoughts about yourself, about your enterprise. And, and I think by the end of these 9 sessions that we're going to do on Antar Prerana, you will discover ways, Umesh, of finding that out. How does it look in different countries? That's an interesting question. Let me think about this and come back to you, Umesh. I really have not looked at this from that perspective. I don't want to give you a off-the-cuff answer, but I certainly would like to look at it and say that, look, is it different in different countries? We'll definitely look at that and come back to you. Yeah? Great. Anybody else? Any other? But that's a great question, Umesh. Fantastic. Anybody else? Any other question that you'd like to ask? Abhinav, how would you suggest one goes about in identifying the purpose of the enterprise when the firm is dealing with different generations and more than one leader? Oh, Umesh, we do this all the time. Especially when you have second generation, third generation, Abhinav, when you have, second generation, third generation in the business. Let me tell you, it's very, very exciting. Especially if you're in the second or the third generation of the business, then let me tell you one very, very interesting part. Every enterprise, is led at some point of time by a leader who's leading the enterprise, let's say. That leader creates a certain amount of goodwill. So what happens is that each succeeding leadership, whether it is from the same generation or from another generation, will keep adding to the goodwill of that enterprise. And therefore, when you have this situation of finding out, you'll have to discover what is the goodwill of the enterprise and how do you actually enhance the goodwill of the enterprise. One of the tragedies that we encounter sometimes is when one generation wants to do everything totally differently from the other generation. Nothing wrong with that. But the tragedy is that you don't junk the goodwill of the enterprise completely. I'll give you an example of what I'm saying. One of the finest suit makers in Bangalore is a company called P.N. Rao. They make fantastic suits and they're more than 100 plus years company. Over the generations, this company has kept adding to the goodwill of their brand. And in this company right now, there are 4 different people who are leading their organization, 2 different generations. But I just love the way that the goodwill of the organization that is more than 100 years old, and that legacy is being carried forward. And like this, I've just quoted to you one example of a client that we work with. But like this, there are any number of organizations today in this country where they've figured out what is the goodwill, and that goodwill is the purpose of the organization, and how do you actually add to that particular goodwill. And even if you're dealing with more than one generation, if you're dealing with more than one leader, it's not very difficult. Okay, there is a little bit of an ego issue, but once you go beyond that, you will discover this, Abhinav. Okay, there are easy ways of helping to do this and getting to understand that. Great. Any other questions? You mentioned purpose cannot be external dependent, Pradeep. Can you elaborate with an example? Absolutely. You see, anything which is external is subject to change. Okay? Anything which is external is subject to change. As I quoted to you, the whole purpose that we started Born to Win is to help people help themselves in a joyous way. The point is that the world is so different today as compared to what it was in 2000 when we started this company. But when we rooted this internally, that this is what we want to do, the world has changed, the markets have changed, our clients have changed, the profiles have changed, everything has changed. But this purpose continues to remain so. If you look at another very, very interesting example of an organization that I admire a lot and has been a client of ours for a long time, is a company called Amul. And Dr. Kurian, when I was working with him, told me a very interesting story. He said, the most important person to me is the lady who gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning and milks the cow. She is the most important person to me. Not the people who go and buy my butter or milk powder or cheese or ice cream or whatever it is. Because it is this lady who's committed, who every day in the morning gets up, milks the cow, puts it in that can, and her son or her brother or her husband or she herself will bring it to the chilling set. So that is the whole purpose of that enterprise. And the reason why Amul continues to be one of the most respected brands in the country and now going across the world is because this is internal. And that's the whole point, Pradeep. This is how you create a sense of purpose which is purely internal, saying that, look, it is that lady that's the most important person in the room. Okay? And that whatever we do, we've got to make sure that she is happy. Our purpose is to make sure that she's happy, right? Have enterprises exited and thrived without a purpose? Well, you just heard Murli saying that, no, that couldn't happen. But Dipti, Yashaswini, would you like to weigh in on this? Have enterprises existed and thrived without a purpose? That's the question.
Sure. I think the short answer is no. We're not in judgment of a purpose.
Yeah.
And what I would just say is just watch out for false humility,
Yeah.
whether it's organizations or individuals or leaders, especially intergenerations, etc. A lot of it in business families actually goes back to the upbringing. And you would find traditional multi-generational families, their children are brought up very differently. So they take off from where the previous generation left off, and that seems natural. And I've also seen a lot of next generation wanting to exit traditional businesses and start off. So, just because there is a conflict, it doesn't mean you have to build consensus. Exiting and starting a completely new venture, maybe in the area of artificial intelligence, moving ahead with times is this thing. But that's again the purpose. So, uh, yeah, I mean, Ram, short answer is no.
Dipti, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel that the purposes could be different, right, from one generation to other generation, and therefore, even if the another generation, in terms is saying exiting the business, is not actually really existing, because that person, that individual wants to do something different. Yeah, so they may start another startup for themselves. So each person's driving force, the reason why I say purpose is important is because, like Murli said, it is a compass. You know where you want to go and what is going to give you at the end of the day the satisfaction, even if it means, like Yashaswini said, that there may be a greed. But greed, yes, greed comes for earning more money, but that becomes next. But the first is a purpose, right? Without a purpose, even the greed can't follow there. So that is the reason why you need to have a person. But at the different generations level, there is a chance that yes, what the older generation may have started, the younger generation may not follow that, only because they want to do something different. If your interests are different, if your genuine likes and dislikes and talents and strengths are different, then the chances are that you will go that way. Yeah.
Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. It's 9 o'clock, and like we start on time, we also close on time. And it's 9, so we officially close the session